As you drive through the countryside, did you ever wonder why most of the barns are red? Well, this is thoughts while thinking, and these opinions are mine. And we got to think about those red barns and tradition and culture and holidays and celebration and family, because it's all part of our past, and we got to look at it every now and then. And the reason those barns are red is back in the colonial days, they didn't have any paint, and they needed to do something to preserve their wood barns back in the northeast up there where they had severe winters, and so they mixed skim milk and lime and red iron oxide. And that is the reason the barn were red. It was because of that plastic type protection that stuff put on the side of the barns and protected against the weather. And we got to know a little bit of the difference between the tradition and the custom, because we live basically on a lot of tradition. So tradition is a behavior and or a belief passed down in a group of generation to generation. For maybe example is like birthdays, and a custom is a behavior that is habitual but not necessarily passed down, like we're having dinner at 6 o'clock in the evening or something like that. Now think about that for a little bit. And we got to have a balance between the control system of freedom and the inspiration of essential arts, because they're all part of what we live by and what we need. And what we live by is a constitution, or we're supposed to, but it's kind of getting deteriorated like this old barn. It ain't standing up very well. It needs some attention. It needs to be reread. It needs to be reactivated. And our family is a link to the past and a bridge to the future, because we got to think about the past, and and we got to keep the family strong. It's kind of eroding away now. We got to worry about that. We don't worry, we just got to do something. Worry is kind of a worthless term, but some way or another it always slips into your vocabulary some way or another. And upholding the family tradition is extremely important, not for just me, but the entire family, because that's what we keep intact. And we got to keep some of those. Now, maybe not all of them, but we got to work on it. We got to keep that Constitution, and we got to work on keeping it. And we got to hang on to that old family tree, and we got to hang on to that old Constitution, and we got to all make it work for our freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And and that'll make us happy, just like these old red barns on the countryside is a pretty sight, and the ones that we want to see. And some people say that tradition is peer pressure from the dead. Well, our Constitution, I guess, is a peer pressure from the dead. I don't think so. I think our Constitution is living, and I think those dead guys that wrote the Constitution and put it into effect are to be revered and kept on a high plane, and we got to look forward to that. And just like we got to look forward to keeping these old barns steady and red as a symbol of our past and current future. And we're all part of a tradition, or at least we depend on the past. We all have that past, and we got to, and it's history of it. We got the history is going to repeat itself. So think about the past. It's history. And the family traditions counter the alienation and the confusion. They help us define who we are, and they provide something steady and reliable and safe in this confusing and upside down world that we're in. And the tradition is not just a worship of ashes, it's a preservation of fire. We got to keep that old ember burning so we can light a fire under it and reestablish our Constitution and put it to work for us. And there are some family traditions that we don't want to pass to our kids. That's our option now. We got to work on that. But the Constitution is not a family tradition. A Constitution is a law. It is our country. It is our tradition of freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we got to protect that. We got to keep it going. And it's getting tore down, kind of like this old withered barn here. We got to work on our Constitution. It's getting in kind of bad shape like that. And without traditions, our lives would be shaky as fiddler on a roof. Well, that's kind of funny, but when you look at what's happening to our Constitution, that's not so funny. So think about it. We got to work on that Constitution and reread it, reestablish it, make it work. And it'll stand strong, just like these old barns that's been taken care of. They've lasted hundreds of years, and we got to keep them going. And if you have somewhere to go, it's a home. And if you have someone to love, it's a family. And if you have both, it's a blessing. And that's what we have. And that's what we strive for. And that's what that Constitution is there for, is to keep us a blessing. And we can get rid of some traditions, but we got to keep that tradition of living by that Constitution alive. And they say that if a government does away with changes of freedom in the Constitution, you'll never get it back. It's lost forever. And we're losing our freedom in our Constitution on a daily basis. And it's getting withered like this old barn. It needs a lot of attention. It needs to be restored. And we don't want to lose our culture. We don't want to lose our past history. We don't want to lose our freedom. But we got to repair that Constitution by reading it and putting it back into practice. It's like we got to repair and replace these old bad planks on barn and repaint it. We got to bring it up. And they say that the secret of freedom lies in educating people, whereas the secret of tyranny is keeping them ignorant. And they've been dumbing down our kids and indoctrinating them in the education system really severely since 1979. Now think about that. And we didn't do all that fighting for health care and government control and controlling our schools. We fought for freedom and the freedom to teach our kids locally. And Thomas Sowell has it pretty well nailed down here. He says freedom is unlikely to be lost all at once and openly. It's far more likely to be eroded away bit by bit amid glimmering promises and expressions of noble ideas. Well, think about the noble ideas we've had for the last 70 to 100 years. They're taking away our freedom and our opportunities for freedom and destroying our Constitution. And we don't want to have to sit here and tell our grandkids and great-grandkids that we once had a free country to celebrate. We don't want to live behind barbed wire fences and electric fences. We want to fly free like the eagle and express our life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we want to keep that old Constitution intact and keep it active, and we got to repair it like we do the old red barn. And if it's freedom that they're hating, then who's winning? Over the past few years, it looks like the indoctrination in the school system, they're winning. And we got to remember that we got to keep that Constitution bright and shiny like we keep these old red barns. And in a world of trends and stuff, I just want to remain a classic. And that's my thoughts while thinking. And it's adios, amigos. And we'll see you on the flip side.